Call the special regional council meeting to order. Please be advised that today's meeting is being recorded on a publicly accessible website, and please respect social distancing or physical distancing while in council chambers. Any additions to the agenda? Mr. Barry.
Yes, Mayor. For when we come out of back into the regular meeting after our in-camera discussions, we had discussion with council regarding water bottles and council meals.
Very well. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Reports, bylaws, policies, Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Sewer Rates Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 183 for adoption. Mr. Barry, did you want to speak to this?
I can, sir. It's just the process for adoption of the changes made to the bylaw. We figured we'd put it on today's agenda because it would just speed up us having the ability to accept any of the waste at the sewer lagoons or sewer treatment plant. So just looking for council adoption.
Ask for a motion to adopt the bylaw, please.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councillor Goering, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. New business items, labor relations. Motion, please, to move to an in-camera closed meeting. Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? And we are in a closed meeting. Call this special regional council back to order. And additions to the agenda, Mr. Barry.
Thank you, Mayor. So just quickly, housekeeping with the pandemic and the public health orders and the work safe requirements that we have to meet, et cetera. Way back in the day, council passed a resolution to not allow water jugs and water coolers. We have in the past run filters in our water coolers, so we use tap water. It just helps with the taste of chlorine, things of that nature. Not sure if council wishes to change that while the pandemic's occurring to allow that. And then similarly, in council meetings, we've provided council meals, typically at a noon meeting. We didn't have them today, of course. And also if meetings start at 5 o'clock. And the change to that, unless council wishes to give a different direction, would be that we would provide meals individually wrapped. So it would be a little bit more time, but we can't do the potluck style, et cetera, where you have to be individually wrapped. Similarly, when it comes to water, we can't have water out. So an option for as long as we're going through these orders until they're restricted is to have, because we had a situation last week in the informal meeting where someone asked for water. We provided, we can't do that. We can't use the same dishes. We can't, it has to be disposable. That's based on health orders and work safe regulations. So as employees, when we come to work, we bring our lunch. We have to bring our own utensils. We have to bring our own cutlery and plates and et cetera. We can't take stuff out of the cupboards. We don't have, there's no coffee because of the way the coffee currently is again. And similarly, we can't use our existing water jugs because just the fact of pouring water in. So similarly, we can't have water left out. So an option would be to use water bottles if council wished, or you just need to respectfully, if not, say sorry if someone asks for water when they come, either bring their own water, or that we don't provide it. Because when the request occurred last week, based on where we currently sit with direction from work safe and stuff, we shouldn't be handing that out based on the requirements, right? Unless we meet some specific requirements from a food delivery perspective, which that's not our primary function. Right.
Councillor Goring.
So as much as it pains me to say this, I think we should have some limited water bottles on hand for guests that require water. I think as council people, we can bring our own water. And I would be interested to hear everybody's perspective on meals provided at noon and at 5.
Any other comments, councillors? Councillor Andrews.
I do agree with few water bottles. Are we able to put a water cooler in here? Is that possible? So like if somebody brought their own container?
So yes, but it would have to be a jug. Not what we currently use. We're using tap
Okay.
water and filling it because again, we can't do that. But then the challenge you run into is we need to have a posted procedure on how to do it because you have to, because it's a common touch area, right?
All right, we'll stick to water bottles.
So we thought about that, right? So in all honesty, we thought about put the water jug and you can do it. But I mean, it's unfortunate, but from a work safe perspective, this is what, if you go by what that direction is, that's what we're required to do, right? So we use a microwave. You bring your own items in, you wipe the microwave down, put your item in, you take it out, you wipe the microwave back down, and you walk away, right? And from a procedure perspective, if we put water jugs on our coolers, which we would, if council's okay with it, if there's no resolution in the books that you can't bring water jugs in or purchase water jugs, we would do that, and then the employees would use them. The employees would. Yeah.
And it's okay to.
Well, the resolution was to not purchase water because it was the intention that we consume the water we produce or treat versus purchasing water to be consumed by the employees. So we've been honoring that, but the fact that someone could fill a jug and sneeze in the jug and put it into the water cooler and then we're all drinking it versus.
That's terrible. Those big water jugs, they don't recycle them. They go into the landfill. So if there is a need for guests,
The
yeah,
one from
I've
down
seen
to
them
earth, they
reused.
reuse it down to earth. If they get brought back,
if they get brought back.
that's, yeah.
At the end of their life, they don't get recycled. They just get landfilled. So if we do need to provide water on a guest basis or whatever, could we not just get the water bottles and then recycle
Yes.
them?
No, yes, I agree with that, is to just do the water bottles because of the whole procedure with the water jugs and everything,
I
but
don't
for
think
staff wise, right?
For staff?
Yeah,
Would they
that's
could just bring
different.
their own-
And they can. No,
You can
absolutely.
fill your own water.
We just need to, right now,
Yeah.
we have jugs that they're not shouldn't be used right now.
Yeah.
And we're either going to remove them or if we could use, so I bring water from
Yeah.
home. People can use tap water. The issue we have with tap water and the reason why we navigated through with using these filter systems on the jugs, on the water coolers was the water stays cold, so you're not running, because you can run the tap. You can run the tap for 5 minutes and the water's still warm under the tap because there's miles of copper pipe in this building. And for some, I mean, we do chlorinate the water, and the filter system removes that chlorination taste. So it just, from a taste perspective, right? But that said, I mean, my morning routine is to fill up with 4 or 5 of these containers and bring them in and I drink from it, right? But the reason why, I mean, if the reality is that if when the question gets asked, can we use this? We say no, it's the current setup. And we can't just arbitrarily bring a jug in and say, have down the earth, bring jugs in or purchase, have a down the earth, for example, if it's overrated, whoever provides it. Because there is a resolution on the books from years ago, years and years ago, to not use water jugs.
Okay, well, can we start with just having those individual bottled waters available for people who want to drink water, our guests or whatever, counselors or whatever. I don't have a problem with us having those as long as they're recycled, personally. I mean, for the length of the COVID-19 restrictions, I have no issue with a 500 milliliter thing for water. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I don't have a problem with it anyway.
Yeah.
Any other counselors have Councilor Roper, any opinion on that?
I would say, yeah, I think the water situation, had the other resources delegation.
We had a delegation and he just needed a drink of water. So having bottles available for that type of thing. As far as staff goes, I mean, I don't think they need it unless.
And the intent, just to be clear, wasn't asking to have those water bottles for staff. The intent was to be able to have water, because typically from a sustainability purpose, we haven't had water bottles sitting here for people to take and having a jug of water, but we can't have that jug of water out anymore, the same as we can't have the trough of food where people pick up their own food to go, right? So that's why things are individually wrapped. But the intent wasn't to have staff access to water bottles because staff can either bring them from
So we're
home.
talking about these flats of Pure Life that you pick up and save on.
We would just have some out during a meeting if there's a
Yeah.
delegation or whatever, so that's that would be the intent there.
Okay, so do you need a resolution for that? All right.
Yes, please.
Can I ask for a resolution that we provide drinking water for meetings? Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to the big water bottle thingies. Yes.
We need to have like a timeline on that, like that, this is just.
No.
No, the intent, and if council's good, the resolution can reflect the intent was as long as the current restrictions are in place
Yeah.
linked to the.
Yeah.
If it's public health orders and or work safe orders.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can incorporate that.
Moving on to the next thing, the large water jugs. That was another piece, was it, of this?
It was just, the reason why we don't bring them in is because it was a council resolution, and there is a cost, and I committed to bringing it up to council, and in all honesty, staff can bring water in, like we do.
But if you bring water in, your water's warm, these jugs would go on a cooler to provide cold water
Yeah,
for staff?
we have the coolers here, and they have differences. We, of course, we use a filter. We pour them in filters through, so that's all.
So are we looking at, so currently there's a restriction. You can't have a large water jug on a cooler to provide staff with cold water.
No, you can't.
You can, but you can't fill it yourself. That's what I meant.
Oh, you can't fill it yourself. Okay. All right, so it would have to be provided by the service then? The Down to Earth would provide this.
Typically, we can put jugs on a cooler. It's the fact that it's like open coffee pots.
I see.
Open
So,
containers.
I guess, just one moment, Councillor Penny. So I would say that for the length of the COVID-19 thing, we would utilize a service to provide cold water for staff. Councillor Penny.
I know that there is services out there. Maybe we could look into it, something just going forward that we could actually tap into our water line and it automatically fill that cooler. So they could have everything that they wanted. They could have it filtered and.
Councillor Gorman.
So they get away from having this.
Have they not all been prevented? We can't use it, like we have it at the rec center, they have them at the schools, but they've all been disconnected. They're not currently allowed to use those. Yeah.
No, those are.
Those are working. Those are still working, because I know at the school, they've, for whatever reason, they have dismantled those. So, but I mean, maybe it's got to do with kids or whatever. I don't really.
I'm just looking for a way to make sure that the staff can get cold water when they want it.
I would much prefer to get something installed, like one of those things, as opposed to the blue jugs, because the blue jugs, you have to touch those handles, and your water bottle has to, like, I can't believe that those things are allowed, given what's going on. So,
Councillor Andrews.
I would rather, instead of the cost of implementing a water bottle filler, because we have a system that works pre and I'm hoping post COVID. So just for the COVID times to use the blue bottles, I would be fine with. That's where I sit.
I would agree with Councillor Andrews. Does anybody have any objections? This is just for the length of the COVID. So we would be able to swap out our bottles that we have currently with fresh ones from.
The water coolers are typical water coolers. They just have a different type of bottle on top that we have the ability to fill ourselves, and they filter into a bottom portion. That's all that is. So we use tap water typically, right? The challenge is that based on the restrictions, we can't open the lid and pour it in. That's the reality.
I'd be totally fine with using a service to bring in clean water. I'd want to make sure that there's hand sanitizer there, so that anyone that gets water from that will sanitize first before they go in. Maybe some wipes, something just to beef up the cleanliness. But I think that's a good idea. Yep, cold water for staff. It's a must.
Councillor Gorman.
just a confirmation, are we talking simply in the town hall, or are we talking on all our sites?
Councillor Andrews.
I would just, any site that currently has a water cooler that was in use prior to COVID. I wouldn't say go out and buy a bunch of new water coolers, just where there are already established water coolers in the organization. That's what I would go with.
Okay. Any other comments? Can I get a motion then? Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed. That motion passes. And Councillor Penny as well. Are there any other discussions? Anything else? Very well. I will ask for a motion. Oh, sorry.
Oh, right.
The meals. Councillor Gerwing.
Mr. Barry had requested a conversation around water bottles and council meals.
Mm.
And so I just was interested in everybody else. What does everybody else feel about council meals at noon and at 5 is when we typically had them provided. So are we okay just to not have them provided, or how do you all feel?
I'm good with having them provided myself. In the pre-wrap things, provided we're keeping our health and safety regulations intact. You were saying that there was going to be something about some kind of a poll about what the individual councillors wanted.
Well, prior, I mean, council have some councillors have some certain dietary restrictions, but typically when we would bring meals in outside those dietary restrictions, we'd have the larger potluck style self-serve, which we can no longer do, of course, right? So if we were bringing them in, just because there's a resolution in the books to say typically we bring them in at noon, and then at 5 o'clock we bring in a meal. If there's a meeting at 5:30, there's no meal, but there's snacks provided potentially. Given current restrictions, it would look a little different. So I just wanted to confirm with council on to continue with that, and if so, we would, if we were doing things, we would just confirm with council what they would want. We would communicate ahead of time to say this, because the meals would most likely be set up that would have your name would be on the meal ahead of time, so that you just take your prepackaged meal and you sit down.
Councillor Penny.
For myself personally, I would just as soon see the meals just go away. In my mind, be nice to have something here if we do run extremely late as we do now, that we had some sort of snack in the room. But other than that, I mean, I'm perfectly okay with seeing them go away and not come back. But that's just my opinion.
Councillor Andrews.
Well, I know with my schedule, even the 5:30 meetings, I don't eat until I get home. So if we're running till 9, I haven't eaten since lunch. That's my schedule. And if other people, like when we changed to the 5:30, 5 o'clock stipulation, I thought it was a horrible idea for myself, but on the grand scheme of things, it's fine. Whatever council wants to do, I can eat whenever. Like, it doesn't really bother me.
I'm kind of in favor of having something at noon and at 5 o'clock. And it doesn't have to be a gourmet meal, but something from Subway would be just fine. Councillor Roper.
Yeah, I think we should do the individual meals. One of my reasons is that it provides, some economic benefits to some local businesses. So I wouldn't want to take that away at a time like this.
Very well. I'll ask for a motion then. We reinstate the noon and 5 o'clock meals. Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Those opposed? Councillor Penny. Very well. Now, I will ask for a motion to adjourn if there is nothing else. There is something else. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Roper.
I was going to mention the grad banners. Some of them are falling off. And I wanted to just, a couple of residents made some notes that some of them didn't look installed properly. And certainly some of those now are just kind of folding off. They sent me some pictures if you want to see it later. But basically, I just want to make sure that we get those fixed up so that
We'll pass it on right away as soon as the meeting's done. If you can, I mean, I can go take a look too, but if you have a couple of pictures, it's easy enough. You can just forward them to me. Great, Councillor.
Sure, I will, for sure.
Very well. No resolutions required. So I will now ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Counselor Penny, seconded by Counselor Andrews. All those in favor? And we are adjourned.